The Snetterton 200 meeting was a new meeting for the calendar, and it gave a chance for the Motor Racing Legends team to bring their wonderful historic sports cars up to Norfolk. That's the unmistakable Jaguar D-Type, and this is a real rarity. This is a Turner Arden with a V8 engine. Here is the unmistakable shape of the Lotus 10. The body was designed by Frank Costin for Colin Chapman's Lotus team, and underneath that very bulbous bonnet is the Bristol engine, and it has these very distinctive fins at the rear. Another Bristol-engined car is this Cooper Bristol, and this engine sounded really crisp when it was out on the circuit, being driven very quickly by Patrick Watts, and I'm guessing Patrick Watts is the famous driver from a far more recent period of sports car racing. And Mark Gordon's XK140, he gets so much use out of this car. It's a familiar sight at a number of historic meetings. Looked after by Chris Keith Lucas's outfit, CKL, and very distinctive with the two strips going down the centre of the body. This is a very interesting car. This is the Maurice Gomme XK140 Special. Maurice Gomme was a prolific race car constructor and bodybuilder in the late 50s and 60s, and this body was originally on a 1938 Grand Prix outer chassis, and it was taken off and put in storage, and then far more recently was put on a XK140 chassis. And the first race of the afternoon was the Woodcote Trophy and the Stirling Moss Trophy combined, a 60-minute race with pit stops. Benny Stick's Jaguar D-Type going through there. You can see how hot the weekend was with the grass scorched. That's that crisp sounding Cooper Bristol engine. Wonderful C-Type going through there that ended up coming in third. And the Lister Knobbly.
And apparently that's where they used to test the noise.
Wonderful Aston Martin DB2 being chased by the Lister Knobbly. And that is the Cooper Monaco of Ollie Crossthwaite, and he shared the drive with Nick Finborough, and they're both sons of two major players in the historic racing world. This is the Hudson and Morley Lister Chevrolet that finished second. It was the Finborough and Crossthwaite Cooper Monaco that came home first. Julius Thurgood's HRDC always brings an element of fun to the historic meetings, I feel. It was a two-day event, and the HRDC were running several grids. On the Saturday when we were there, they were running the Alfa Romeo Challenge. The HRDC is always supported very loyally by Westbourne Motorsport, who are looking after all these cars. Obviously, the Lenham caught my eye. This car did very well at Goodwood some years ago, winning the Westlake Cup, and the Sebring Sprite, looking wonderful. I think that's Simon Drabble's Mark 1 Jag. And the team of Westbourne Motorsport just putting the standard Vanguard into position for the race on the Sunday. These Lotus Cortinas always do very well in the 60s touring car races. And the Alfa Giulia. And this is a lovely looking car. This is the Alfa Romeo Sprint GT. I think it's probably the best looking of the 1965 touring cars. There's obviously quite a range of ages in this grid. I think the earliest car is the Alfa Giulia Sprint GT, which is 1964, and the most modern is a 1982 car, the Alfa GT V6, number 99. And don't these Alfas look fabulous with their period correct colour schemes and sponsorship decals? It's lovely that Julius tries to keep everything authentic to the period.
John, you want to lift them through there? We'll see if we can herd these sides up.
Talking to the drivers, a lot of these cars were just almost standard road cars with a roll cage put in and the safety equipment. The two cars at the front there, the green and the Alfa GT, are run by two brothers, the Colburn brothers, who are both very quick. And the Alfa Sud there in yellow. Surprisingly, it was the oldest car on the grid that actually won, James Colburn in the Sprint GT, the 64 car, and that's with the 2-litre engine. Off track, there were cars of interest on display in the inner circuit area. Lovely 1937 Riley Sprite. Always lovely to see the pre-war sports cars. I think that has some competition history with rallying. Talking of rally cars, that's a Austin A40, kitted out for proper serious rallying. Back to the pits, and it's the TVR Grand Tourer we're seeing here, powered by an MG engine. This car was entered into the sort of epic 3-hour Pall Mall Cup, which happened at the end of the day. 2 drivers, maybe even 3 drivers, and ranging from sort of 50s to mid-60s sports cars. Porsche 911 here, number 73. Obviously a 2-litre car, and 1965, looking lovely in that colour scheme with the yellow band across the bonnet. This race was dominated by these two at the front, the Cobras, which is often the case. There's beautiful E-Type, Austin Healey, and probably the earliest car, the Lotus 11 Le Mans behind it. Keeping up the rear was the MGB. And that MGB is getting a bit feisty there with the Ginetta G4R. A really pretty car, the Ginetta G4R, and they managed to get that on pole, and it did incredibly well, but quickly fell back. I guess that they had a really quick driver and 2 much slower ones. Beautiful Porsche 911 there. As we mentioned before, the MGBs really are a useful car. You're eligible for so much. And Nick Findra there in the Lotus Elite, and coming out of the pits as well. That car always seems to do very well in historic racing. The Austin Healey just locking up, going into the tight corner called Murray's. I've done a lot of track days at Snetterton, and that corner is really tricky because you come out of the long Coram curve and the car's not even straight, and you're hard on the brakes to slow to get it around Murray's. as you can see there, the Ginetta keeping up with the E-Type. So, as I say, one particularly quick driver. All the drivers' surnames were Ward, but they were not from the same family. And yes, one of the leading Cobras. The Cobra that actually came in first was driven by Harvey Stanley and Richard Cook. And again, that brightly coloured Porsche 911. And this was the Lotus 11 I mentioned earlier, Peter Haynes' car, and Mark Donaldson, I think it is. 1958, a 1.5 litre Coventry Climax engine. Obviously 3 hours takes its toll on a lot of these historic cars, and unfortunately that looks like it didn't go back out.
The G4R.
Snetterton is, of course, a really quick circuit because you've got that back bomber straight, and they were using the 200 circuit because it was the closest to how the circuit was back in the 50s, so they wanted to keep it as close to the original layout. The Pall Mall Cup was the last race on Saturday. It was unfortunate the grids weren't a lot larger and the crowd was quite small, but the quality of the grids was really high. Hopefully, motor racing legends will bring back their wonderful grids and we'll see another Snetterton Historic 200.